Prince Osaze, the Oba commands your return.
Prince?
I was going to tell you.
When? After I trusted you with everything? Say it again.
Adaku, listen to me.
Then say your real name. That crate was locked, not well enough. You planted this. Then ask Adaku who opened it. 3 weeks earlier, none of this existed. Did you really think you could escape? How touching, but utterly useless.
Adaku's palm cracked across Osaze's cheek before he could finish his sentence. The market froze. Traders abandoned their stores, customers dropped their baskets, and a crowd folded in around the two of them like water closing over a stone. Osaze staggered back a step, his hand rising slowly to his jaw, more stunned by the sting of her betrayal than the blow itself. Say it again, Adaku hissed, chest heaving. Say your name again. Tell me it's Osas. Tell me you're just a mechanic. Lie to my face one more time. Adaku, don't, her voice cracked down the middle. Don't say my name like you have the right to. Behind her, Mama Eki pushed through the gathering crowd, wrapper clutched at her waist, eyes darting between the two of them, and the palace guards now filling into the market square in gold-trimmed uniforms. Efe gripped his little sister Osaro's hand, both children staring at the man who had spent 3 weeks teaching him how to strip a generator wire, now standing frozen under the weight of a title neither of them had heard him claim. Prince Osaze of Igodo, one of the guards announced, loud enough for the whole square to hear. The Oba requests your return to the palace immediately. A ripple of gasps moved through the crowd. Someone dropped a basin of tomatoes. Adaku's hand flew to her mouth, and for a moment, Osaze watched something in her break that he knew he couldn't fix with any tool Mama Eki had taught him to use. You are the prince, Adaku said, so soft it barely reached him. The one Kisiana was supposed to marry. The one everyone's been searching the kingdom for. I wanted to tell you, Adaku said. When? Her laugh came out jagged, more pain than humor. Before or after you kissed me under Mama Eki's tap. Before or after I let you into my store when the debt collector's men were looking for you. I trusted you with my brother and sister, Osaze. I trusted you with everything I had left. 3 weeks ago, none of this existed. 3 weeks ago, Osaze had been standing in the palace courtyard in a betrothal gown of ceremonial gold cloth, Kisiana's hand looped through his arm, and his father's voice booming across the assembled nobility about legacy and duty and the future of Igodo. Osaze remembered staring at Kisiana's practiced, camera-ready smile and feeling something in his chest curl inward like paper catching fire. I can't do this, he'd whispered to her. You don't have a choice, Kisiana had whispered back, smile never faltering. That was when he'd made his decision. Mid-ceremony, mid-vow, Osaze had bolted for his motorcade, thrown the vehicle into gear and driven it straight through the palace gates before his guards could catch him. He hadn't planned the crash. He hadn't planned skidding off the procession route and slamming his car into a stack of yam crates in the middle of Otugwe market. He definitely hadn't planned the girl who'd run out of a fabric store, sleeves rolled to her elbows, and yanked him out of the smoking wreckage with her bare hands. Are you trying to die or are you just stupid? Adaku had snapped at him that first day, dragging him upright by his collar while traders shouted around them, before Mama Eki shouldered through the crowd and demanded to know who was wrecking her market. She's my new apprentice, Adaku had said before he could answer. He didn't know why she had said it. He still doesn't, standing here now with her palm print stinging on his skin and the truth splayed open in front of everyone who mattered to him. I can explain, Osaze said, reaching for her hand. Adaku stepped back before he could touch her. There's nothing to explain. You're a prince. I'm a market girl raising 2 children on fabric money. This was never going to be anything real. It was real to me. His voice broke on the last word, raw enough that even the guards shifted uncomfortably. Every single day of it was real to me, Adaku. The only lie was my name. If you've ever loved someone before you knew the whole truth about them, drop a comment and tell me, would you have forgiven him or walked away like Adaku? And if this story already has your heart racing, hit that subscribe button and like this video because it is about to get so much worse before it gets better. Kesiana's voice sliced through the tension like a blade drawn slow from its sheath. How touching, Kesiana said, stepping out from behind the guards, arms folded, eyes glittering with something colder than triumph. The prince and his market girl. Tell me, Osaze, does she know what I found in her stall this morning? Does she know what your little disappearing act actually cost her? Adaku's stomach dropped. What is she talking about? Kesiana smiled, slow and sharp as a blade catching light. Ask your brother, Adaku. Ask him what's hidden under your fabric crates. Ife's face went pale before he even opened his mouth. Ife, Adaku turned slowly to her brother, the crowd's whispers rising around them like smoke. What is she talking about? Adaku, I swear I didn't know what it was. Show her, Kesiana said, waving a lazy hand toward two of her attendants who shoved forward through the traders carrying a wooden crate Adaku recognized instantly. It was the one she kept locked under her fabric stand, the one she never let anyone touch, not even Osaze, in 3 weeks of sharing her workspace. The crate cracked open on the dusty ground. Gold palace gold, stamped with the royal seal of Igudo, wrapped in cloth that still smelled faintly of the palace treasury vault. Adaku's hands flew to her mouth. Osaze's blood turned to ice. That's not mine, Adaku said, voice shaking. I've never seen that in my life.
Of course you haven't, Kesiana said sweetly. Your little brother found it and hid it for you, didn't he, Efe? Thought he was helping his little sister keep the stall afloat. Isn't that right? I found it, Efe blurted, tears already spilling. I found it near the palace wall 2 weeks ago. I didn't know it was stolen. I just wanted to help with the rent, Adako. I swear. You stole from the crown. Chief Amadine stepped forward with the particular relish of a man who had been waiting his whole career for a moment exactly like this one. Theft from the royal treasury is punishable by exile, the whole family, effective immediately. No! Osase's voice cracked through the square like a whip. She had nothing to do with this. She harbored stolen palace property, Amadine said calmly. Whether she knew or not is irrelevant to the law, Your Highness. Unless you'd like to explain to your father why you spent 3 weeks living under a market stall instead of preparing for your wedding. Osase's jaw tightened. I'll explain everything to my father myself. You misunderstand me, Amadine said, and for the first time his voice lost its silk. This isn't a request. 2 guards moved toward Adaku. She flinched back, pulling Osaro against her chest, and Osase stepped between them so fast the crowd gasped. Touch her and you will answer to me, he said low and dangerous, a voice none of the market traders had heard from Osas in 3 weeks of stripped wires and burnt fingers and quiet laughter over cassava chips. This was the voice of a prince who had grown up watching his father command armies. The guards hesitated, glancing at Amadine. Osase, Adaku whispered behind him, and he could hear the fear cracking through her anger now. What are you doing? Protecting you, he said without turning around, the way I should have done from the beginning, by telling you the truth. Kesiana's smile faltered for the first time. You'd choose a thief's family over your own kingdom? She's not a thief. Her brother made a mistake. A 14-year-old boy trying to help his sister survive after this kingdom let their parents' shop burn down without a single coin of compensation. You stole that gold, Kesiana. You planted it. I know how, but I know you. You've hated me choosing anyone else since the day my father announced our betrothal. Careful, Kesiana said softly. Accusations like that could cost you the throne. Then let it cost me. The words landed heavier than he expected, heavier than he planned, honestly, because until that exact moment, Osase hadn't known he meant them. He turned back to Adako, whose eyes were wide and wet and searching his face for something to hold on to. "I'm sorry," he said, only to her now, voice dropping so low it felt like they were alone again, back under Mama Eki's tap with rain drumming overhead and nothing between them, a broken circuit board and the first spark of something neither of them had asked for. Adako's hand caught. "If you're lying to me again, I will never forgive you." "Then watch," Osase said, and turned to face the guards, his father's chief advisor, and the woman who had just tried to burn down everything he'd built in 3 quiet, imperfect, real weeks. If you think Cassiana planted that gold herself, comment below and let me know what you think happens next. And if your heart is racing right now, smash that like button and subscribe, because Osase is about to walk into the palace and defy his own father in front of the entire royal court. The walk to the palace gates felt longer than any road Osase had traveled in his life. Adako's hand locked tightly in his, Efe and Osaru trailing behind, with Mama Eki's protective arm around their shoulders, and Kesiana's furious footsteps echoing close behind. All of them marching straight toward Oba Osayande, who was already standing on the palace steps, arms folded, face carved from stone. Oba Osayande's eyes swept over the procession. His son, disheveled and grease-stained, hand in hand with a market girl the entire palace was now whispering about. 2 frightened children, Mama Eki with fire in her eyes, and Chief Amadine trailing behind looking far too satisfied with himself. "Osase!" The king's voice rolled across the courtyard like distant thunder. "You disappear from your own betrothal ceremony for 3 weeks, and this is how you return to me, covered in market dust, holding the hand of a commoner accused of harboring stolen treasury gold?" "Father, she did nothing wrong." "I did not ask for her defense." Oba Osayande descended the steps slowly, each footfall deliberate. "I asked why my son, heir to the throne of Igodo, thought it wise to abandon his duty, his betrothed, and his kingdom to hide in a marketplace fixing generators." "Because I couldn't breathe in that palace," Osaze said, and his voice shook with something raw enough that even the guards around them fell silent. "Every day here felt like wearing a crown made of other people's expectations. I never once got to choose anything for myself. Not my studies, not my friendships, not even the woman I was supposed to marry. So I left. And in that market, for the first time in my life, someone looked at me and saw a person instead of a title." "Sentiment," Chief Amadine cut in smoothly, "does not excuse theft from the royal treasury." "The gold was planted," Osaze snapped, rounding on him. "You know it. Kesiana knows it. I intend to prove it before the sun sets." Queen Ehimwema appeared in the doorway behind her husband, silk wrapper catching the afternoon light. Her eyes immediately found Adaku's face and softening in a way that startled everyone watching. "This is the girl," she said quietly, not a question. "Mother, this is Adaku." Osaze's grip on her hand tightened, grounding himself. "She's the reason I remembered what it felt like to be a person instead of a prince. And her brother is the reason half this court believes she's a thief," Amadine interjected smoothly. "Enough!" The Oba's palm cracked against the stone railing, silencing everyone. "Bring the girl's brother forward." Efe stumbled forward, shaking, Osaru clinging to Mama Eki's wrapper behind him. "I found it," he stammered, voice barely audible, "near the eastern wall, buried under loose stone. I didn't know where it came from, I swear on my parents' grave. I only wanted to help my sister pay the stall rent before the landlord threw us out onto the street." "The eastern wall," the Oba repeated slowly, exchanging a glance with his wife. "That's the section under Chief Amadine's oversight." A flicker of unease crossed Amadine's face before he smoothed it away. "Coincidence, Your Majesty, nothing more." "Is it?" Osaze stepped forward, something clicking into place behind his eyes.
You've hated the idea of Kesiana losing this marriage since the moment I ran. You've spent your entire career tying your influence to whichever bloodline sits closest to the throne. What better way to force my hand back to her than framing the woman I actually love? The word love landed in the courtyard like a struck bell. Adaku's breath caught audibly beside him. Even Kesiana's composure cracked just slightly at the corner of her mouth. You dare accuse me? Amadine's voice rose, on the word of a common girl and her thieving brother? You dare accuse you, on the word of a boy who was terrified enough to confess in front of the entire royal court rather than let his sister take the blame, Chief Amadine? That's not the behavior of a criminal. That's the behavior of a child who trusted the wrong adult had already handled the truth. Silence stretched across the courtyard, thick and trembling. Then, the Oba turned to his guards. Search the royal treasury ledgers for the past month. Cross-reference every gold shipment against Chief Amadine's reported inventory counts. If there is a discrepancy, I want it on my desk before nightfall. Your Majesty, this is absurd. So is a 14-year-old boy discovering royal treasury gold buried under a wall he has never had access to, the Oba said coldly. Take him to the West Chamber. He will remain there until the ledgers are checked. Two guards moved to flank Amadine, whose composure finally shattered entirely, sputtering protests as he was led away. Kesiana watched him go with an expression caught somewhere between panic and calculation, already backing towards the courtyard gate. This isn't over, she said, eyes flicking to Osaze. You'll regret choosing her over your own kingdom. I already regret every day I spent pretending I could choose anyone else, Osaze said quietly, and something in his tone made her flinch before she turned and fled into the crowd of stunned nobility gathering at the palace windows above. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Queen Ehimwema crossed the courtyard and took Adaku's free hand gently in both of hers. You held my son together for 3 weeks when this entire palace couldn't manage it in 23 years. I owe you more gratitude than I can say in one afternoon. Adaku's eyes filled, overwhelmed, and for the first time since Kesiana's accusation shattered the market square, she let herself lean into Osaze's side instead of pulling away. I still don't know if I forgive you, she whispered to him, low enough that only he could hear. I know. His forehead dropped gently against hers, hands framing her face with a tenderness that made the surrounding guards look away out of respect. But you're still standing here. That has to count for something. It counts for everything, she breathed, and closed the distance between them, kissing him slowly in the middle of the palace courtyard, in front of the king, the queen, Mama Eki, her siblings, and every noble pressed against the windows above. Not a stolen moment under a market tap this time, but a claim, deliberate and unhidden, that she was choosing him back in front of the whole kingdom that had almost taken him from her. The Oba cleared his throat pointedly, though the corner of his mouth had softened into something almost like a smile. There will be time for that, he said, after we deal with the small matter of clearing your family's name. If that kiss just made your heart skip, comment your favorite line from this scene below. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe if you want to see how Osaze proves Adaku's innocence once and for all. Because Chief Amadine isn't finished, and neither is Kesiana. By nightfall, the treasury ledgers told a story Amadine never expected anyone to read. The royal accountant laid 3 scrolls across the Oba's desk, hands trembling slightly under the weight of what he'd found. Discrepancies stretching back 4 months, Your Majesty. Small amounts at first, shipments logged as delivered to the Eastern War reserves that never actually arrived. Amadine approved every transfer personally. 4 months, the Oba repeated, voice flat with fury. Long before my son ever crashed into that marketplace.
He was building a hiding place, Osase said slowly, understanding dawning. A somewhere to stash treasury gold quietly in case he ever needed leverage. And when I disappeared and Adaku's family became inconvenient to Kesiana's plans, he saw the perfect opportunity to plant it and blame someone with no way to defend herself. The Oba's jaw tightened. Bring him before me, now! Chief Amadine was dragged into the throne room minutes later, his usual composure stripped away, sweat beading at his temples as the ledgers were read aloud in front of the full court. Kesiana stood near the back, arms crossed, face carefully blank, though Osase caught the flicker of panic in her eyes when the accountant mentioned a fourth scroll, one detailing payments made to a KA for information about the missing prince's location. Kesiana, Osase said quietly, and the court's attention swung toward her like a tide turning. You knew where I was hiding. You paid Amadine for updates on my movement, and when it became clear I wasn't coming back to you willingly, the two of you decided framing Adaku was easier than admitting you'd lost. I did nothing but try to save this kingdom from an heir throwing away his throne for a fabric seller. Kesiana snapped, months of composure finally cracking wide open. I never wanted it, Osase said, not unkindly, but with a finality that seemed to deflate whatever fight remained in her. The Oba rose from his throne, voice ringing through the hall. Chief Amadine, you are stripped of your title and possessions effective immediately and will face trial for treasury theft and conspiracy against the crown. Kesiana, your family standing at court is suspended pending a full inquiry into your involvement. He turned, gaze softening as it landed on Efe, who still stood pale and shaking near his sister. And the boy who found stolen gold and confessed rather than let his family suffer in silence, that is not the behavior of a criminal. That is the behavior of someone raised with more integrity than half this court combined. Efe's shoulders sagged with relief so total, his knees nearly buckled. Adaku pulled him into her arms, tears finally spilling freely, and Osaro wrapped around both of them, and Mama Eki dabbing her eyes with the edge of her wrapper, muttering something about market children with more sense than palace advisors. Adaku Ogbede, the Oba said, and the whole room quieted. Step forward. She did, hesitant, Osase's hand finding the small of her back for support as she approached the throne. My son tells me you took him in as a stranger, taught him a trade with your own two hands, and never once asked him for anything in return, even when you had every right to throw him out the moment he proved useless with a wrench. The Oba's stern expression cracked just a little into something warmer. That is a rare kind of character, and I have spent 23 years trying and failing to teach it to nobles born with more privilege than you've ever known. I didn't do it expecting anything, Your Majesty, Adaku said, voice steadier than she felt. I did it because he needed somewhere to belong, and I understood what that felt like. Then, perhaps, the Oba said, glancing at his son with the faintest trace of a smile, this palace learned what belonging actually looks like. 3 weeks later, the market square that had once held a smoking royal motorcard was transformed into something the kingdom of Igodo had never seen. A wedding neither entirely palace nor entirely market, but both at once. Ankara fabric from Adaku's own stall draped between wooden poles instead of palace silk. Mama Eki stood at the front beside Queen Ehimwema, the two women who shaped Osase into someone worth loving, standing shoulder to shoulder. Efe, dressed in his first tailored agbada, beamed from the front row, with Osaro perched on his lap, and traders who had once mocked Osas for his terrible wiring now cheered louder than half the assembled nobility. Osase stood at the center of it all, watching Adaku walk toward him in a gown that mixed lace with the exact wax print pattern from the fabric she'd been folding the day she pulled him out of a burning car. You clean up well, Osas, she teased when she reached him, eyes bright with the kind of joy that made the last 3 weeks of chaos feel worth every second. I had a good teacher, he murmured back,
taking her hand. She taught me everything that actually matters. When the vows ended and the Oba himself pronounced them husband and wife, Osase pulled Adaku into a kiss that lasted long enough to draw laughter and cheers from the crowd, Efe covering Osaro's eyes with mock horror while Mama Eki wiped happy tears from her cheeks. It wasn't the palace wedding anyone expected for a crown prince. It was better, messy, real, and built on a foundation that no stolen gold or jealous rival could ever crack. If this story made you fall in love right alongside Adaku, let me know in the comments which moment hit you the hardest. And please, like and subscribe if you want more stories exactly like this one. And before you go, drop a comment below and tell me, where are you watching from tonight?